So, hey guys, it's Sanjay here. I'm an Android engineer, product designer, and Google developer expert for Android. So, I hope you're all doing good. So, I'm really excited for this session. So, in this session, we are going to talk about our introduction to Jetpack Compose. So, this is my very first talk for the DevFest event. I'm really excited for this. So, without wasting that much time, let's get started. So the agenda. So the topics we are going to cover in this talk is what is Jetpack Compose and why use Jetpack Compose. And we are going to discuss about how to use theming in Jetpack Compose and building UI components. I will be showing some demo, and also I will be showing some complex layout demo in Jetpack Compose. And finally, I'm going to discuss deeply about navigation in Jetpack Compose. So introduction to Jetpack Compose. So what is Jetpack Compose? Probably you guys already know it is a modern declarative UI toolkit for Android, and Compose makes it really easier to write and maintain your app UI by providing declarative UI. So that is very interesting. And third one is it is built purely with Kotlin. So now also the fourth one is UI development makes faster and easier with Jetpack Compose. So if you already tried Jetpack Compose, it will be, that experience how fast it is compared to the XML Android. So why use Jetpack Compose? So if you the compared to the XML Android, Jetpack Compose takes very much less code to make the similar features, and it is more intuitive. So with the declarative API, so you can able to create fast animations and all those stuffs without any hassle and fast development. So switching from XML Android to Jetpack Compose, it makes development much more faster and easier. And the fourth point is it is more powerful and comes in handy. So what is more powerful means the animation in Jetpack Compose is really awesome. So I will be showing some demo in upcoming samples. So it's time to stop theories and let's get into the action. So now I have created an empty project. So I have added some components here. So I will be explaining all the stuffs. So whenever you created the main Jetpack Compose project, you will be landed on this screen. So we are in main activity right now. So in main activity, I have declared a nav graph. So what is mean by nav graph? So I have declared all the navigation components inside of this nav graphs. So let me go through all the stuffs. So if you go to the screens, so I have declared all the screens which we are going to have in our Jetpack Compose application. So in this application, we are going to have home and layouts and lazy column, lazy row, lazy grid, and detail screen. So these are all the screens which we are going to have in our application. So coming back to the nav graph, so nav graph is really helpful to it's kind of like nav host, so which will be act as an admin to route the user to the particular screens. So here we are defining our remember state function to remember our nav controller on every recomposition, and also we are having this main actions which I will be explaining it later. So coming to the navos, in navos, we have declaring this nav controller parameter as well as we are declaring the start destination. So whenever you are creating an application, you will be having some start destination, right? So for example, if you are loading one application, so after splash screen is our start destination. So in this application, we are going to route the user to the home screen. Okay. Now let's come to the composable. So what it means? So this is a composable function where I define screen.home.route from this class. You see? So whenever user redirects to this screen, so we will be loading this composable function called home screens. So when you click on that, you will see I have created an empty composable screen. So that will act as a screen. So how to create the composable screen? I'm going to delete this. Let me type function home screen, and you need to mark this function with composable annotation. Now you need to add actions, which is from our nav graph. So switching back to nav graph, you see I have defined plenty of actions to route the user from one screen to another screen. For example, if you take the up press, I have declared it as a unit function, which will help with the help of the nav controller. We are just going back to the previous screen. So this is called go to lazy column screen, which will declaring the unit function. And whenever the user clicks on the call this function, we will be navigating user to this lazy column screen. So we vice versa, we have added all the possible routes for our application. So switching back to the home screen, I'm going to type the box. So box layout is something related to relative layout in XML Android, and you need to pass this modifier fill max width, max size, and the background color is going to be material theme dot colors dot background. So now inside of this function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call lazy column. So, and inside of this, I'm going to define the items. So now let's run the application and see. You see, currently we don't have any items to display. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add some text here, which is called my dogs. And the styling would be typography.h5, and the color would be colors dot on surface. So now let's try to run this application again. So you see we have this text, but I think I have given a wrong color. So let me correct it. You see, now we are displaying the text in a single item. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to display a list of dogs from my data model. So what I'm going to do is, for now, let's declare val dogs list is equal to fake dog database dot dogs list. So actually this data is coming from this fake dog database which I have created. So I have added some couple of dogs information here. So yeah, also I have added the resource for the dogs images here. So if you see, these are all the dogs images which we are having right now. And coming back to home screen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate. We need to pass the dog list here, and we need to call for each, and I'm going to call the text view a dog. Yeah, and the typography would be subtitle 1. Color is going to be material theme dot colors dot surface. Now let's try to run this application. You see, now we have a list of dogs coming from our fake database. So this is the actual recycler view. If you take an XML Android, it will take, you need to create an adapter as well as you need to create a layout and all those stuffs. But in Compose, it's just a single line. You can able to populate all the recycler view kind of approach in a Compose. So it makes much more easier to create this kind of cool things in Compose. So let me add some styling to this item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component. So that is going to be item dog card. So I'm going to create item dog card. Inside of this, I'm going to create a box layout. modifier fill max width and so now instead of this, I'm going to create another card view, and here for this card view, the background color would be material theme dot color dot background. So instead of this, I'm going to copy the same text from here, and I'm going to paste it here. So this needs to be title, dog name, okay, and I'm going to copy this again and again. So this is going to be caption. So now for this is going to be, we need to add dog age and location is equal to string. So to string. Now we have defined our style. So I'm going to call this function inside of this for each. So dog item card. So I'm going to it dot name, and age is going to be it dot age and it dot location. So this needs to be string. Required and font string. So now let's try to run this again. Okay, so now you see without adding the styling and spacing, all the data looks scrambled. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add some spacer. So which helps to add modify dot height. So you can add the height space between this two text. So now let's try to run this application again. I think we need to wrap the column. Okay. And so the column layout helps to create a vertical list. Vertical stack means, okay. So now let's try to run this again. And now you see we have our dog name as well as age as well as the location. Yeah. So now what you need to do is I'm going to add some more styling. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add padding. So you can add overall padding 24 dp. And let's run this again. Now you see we have this cool padding right now. So coming to the point, now we need to add the image for the dog also. So for that, what I'm going to do is, so inside of this one, I'm going to add a new image. Painter resources or dot. So for that, what I'm going to do is dot okay. So now let's try to add drawable.blue dog, and the content description would be dog image. Now let's try to run this. And I have been facing some issue with this. This is because I'm not sure. Let me add something here. Okay, anyways, let's get rid of this one. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change the color of the card view. So currently you see the card view doesn't look that much great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the theming. So whenever you create a new project, you will be having the themes. So for example, we have this color file, and we have the shape file, and we have this theme file, as well as we have this type file. So let's go to the color. So by default, these are the colors which will be pre-populated when you create a new project. So these are the colors which I have manually added to this project. So you need to declare the name, as well as you need to add the hex code here. So yeah, so you can define a number of colors in this function, in this file. So now switch to shape.kt. So whenever you see some application, they will be having the rounded corners and all those corner radius, right? So you can define your own custom shapes here with custom values. So by default, it's now having small, medium, and large. So you can just call this corner radius all over the functions for box layout or card view or anything. Now let's go to the typography here. Now if you see, so currently, whenever you loading the application, you will be having one default font family here, and instead of that, you will be having only one set of fonts here. So what it exactly means? So each project differs, having some different typography, right? So I have added the fonts. So you see, in the fonts folder, I have added 3 fonts. One is like regular and medium and bold. So that font is name is called 𝗏𝗍𝗫. Okay. Now I have defined my typography text here. So this is basically a style guide. So we have the H1, H2, H3, H4, and heading 5, heading 6, and we have subtitle 1, subtitle 2, body 1, body 2, button, caption, overline, etc. So these text, these predefined styles are actually from material design. So whenever you are creating a design or you are creating application in Jetpack Compose, I strongly suggest you to create a typography in this particular format. Otherwise, it's going to be complete mess. So for example, instead of if I go to the card view here, instead of calling the type, so what I'm going to do is font size, I will be giving some custom size SP. Now when I run this application, you see the size of the text is actually increased, but this is not a good way to define the manual pointing to the styles. So what I would suggest is like whenever you're calling some colors or any kind of styling, that needs to be from the material theme. Okay, so okay, I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so now I have defined my, so in main activity, I have defined my theme as a dark mode is equal to true. So for, if you see, currently our application in dark mode. So when I try to set this to false and run it again, we will be having the day mode theme. So the problem with this approach is, let me check the color for this surface. Okay. Now let's try to run this application and see. Okay. Now switch to team. So this team name is called DevFest a demo team. So you can create a number of theme as well as a number of color palettes here. So like whether it can be a purple color palette, black color palette, any types of color palette you can able to create with the Jetpack Compose. And what you have to do is you need to call a function team 2. So I'm going to copy everything from here. Just going to have the material, and I need to mark this with a composable function. Okay, so you can even able to modify this color palettes, and now when you go to the main activity, you can just change the theme for your application and it would work. So this is how you can able to create multiple themes for your application. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain you a little bit about the navigation. So coming to the navigation here. So, okay. So I have been explaining what is actually happening here. So we have this animated nav host and we have all the composable like home screen, layout screen, lazy column screen, lazy row, and lazy grid. Okay. So also this is the way you need to define your composable function in a nav host. And what if you need to pass some data to the doc detail screen? So for that, what I'm going to do is let's go to the home screen, and here you need to add one additional on click functionality. So on click unit. So this is going to be on. Now you need to add clickable functions here, and inside of this you need to call this unit function. Now coming to the home screen, now what you need to do is so now you need to call actions dot go to doc details, and you need to pass the dog ID. So for that, what I'm going to do is it dot ID. So when you go to this one, you see we are receiving the parameter int, which is called dog ID, and we are navigating to this dog details screen. So when I try to run this application, we have this one. When I click on this, you see we are navigating to the new screen. But the problem is in our second screen, doc detail screen, we don't define any functions, right? So that's the reason we are not able to see what all the details are actually present. So in doc detail screen, we are receiving ID and actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the exact same lazy column, and in doc detail screen, I'm going to paste this one, and I'm going to paste this inside the box layout and move everything inside the box layout. Now we need to set the box layout to max size. So for that, modify it out. Okay. Now we have this dog details and fake dog database. Find okay, so now we are passing this ID dog ID to the dog list, so that what we are going to do is I'm going to remove this, and let's remove this one. Instead of this, I'm going to the dog item card, and I'm going to copy all this text and go to the dog detail screen, and inside of this dog details dot name, and you need to repeat the same dog details dot age, dog details dot location. So this needs to be string to string. Now my dog details. Now when you try to run this application and when you click on this, you see we are navigated to the dog detail screen, and we are also receiving some details about the dog. So this is how the compose, the nav arguments work in Jetpack Compose. So switching back to the nav graph, we also have this up press, which is being able to navigate up, which is basically a back press. So I'm going to do that right now. So coming to the dog detail screen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component called scaffold, which is a predefined component, and I'm going to fill modify dot fill max size. Okay. So what is basically a scaffold? Scaffold is a basic default detail layout which helps to define some sort of top bar, bottom navigation. It receives all sort of parameters where you can able to put your own composable functions. So let me explain you that. What I'm going to do is on top bar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this text to top bar. Okay, and now let's create a bottom bar, and I'm going to change the text to bottom bar. Okay, and we also have floating action button. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a floating action button. So, and instead of this icon, let's click add. So click so and you see we have added the placeholder. In placeholder, top bar placeholder, we have added the title, and in the bottom bar placeholder you need to add the bottom bar for now. But for now what I've added is just a text, and here we have also added the floating action button, and you see even scaffold receives some multiple drag content and all those stuffs. So coming back to this, and I'm going to add the background color, which is going to be material theme dot colors dot primary. Let's switch to primary, and your content needs to go inside this function. So I'm going to copy this. Maybe copy this and paste it here. Maybe we can do something like I can move this entire lazy column inside this here. Let's remove this. Now I'm going to remove this also. Now when you try to run this, when you click on this, you see I have set the background color to primary. What I'm going to do is let's background. When you click on this, you see we have this top bar, we have this bottom bar, also we have this floating action button where you need to pass the icon here. And yeah, this is basically the use case for the scaffold layout. And okay, so now what we can do is let's take a look at lazy grid. Okay, so I have created a base version of lazy grid. So this is something related to the grid list. So we have seen how the lazy column works, which is a vertical list, and now we are going to see how the grid list is going to work. So inside of this, I'm going to copy the exact same function which we are having here, and going to the lazy grid screen, I'm going to call item, and this needs to be, we need to call val dog list. you need to pass the parameter docklist here, and you need to paste it here. Items list. Okay, so now what you have to do is I'm going to nav graph screen, and I'm going to change my start destination to lazy grid. Now let's try to run this application. Now you see, this is how our application looks when we run this. This is because of the text issues, wrapping issues. So we are going to fix this. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of creating a dog card, I'm going to create a new card. So new composable function. This is going to be item grid card, and inside of this we are going to call modifier dot wrap content size, which will help us to wrap the content of that layout. And here I'm going to add maybe the age. Let's try to add only the age, so that this needs to receive age, which is going to be string. So now I'm going to change the background color to material theme dot colors dot primary, and I'm going to clip the shape to circle shape. Now here I'm going to change it to background. Now we need to call this composable function on our grid screen. So I'm going here, item dog grid, and I'm going to pass the age. This needs to be string. Now let's try to run this. Yeah, you see we have this grid layout. So I'm going to increase the grid size to 100. So this is maybe 200. I think 100 is fine. And I need to go to the item grid, and here we are going to change the text to 𝗏. Now this looks fine. Now we need to add some padding. Okay, this looks fine. And you need to add some spacer here. So now let's try to run this again. Maybe not spacer. So padding is fine. And we need to clip the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip the shape. And yeah, now you see we have this component. So this is how the shapes is actually working in Jetpack Compose. You can even call your own custom shapes here, clip.shapes.large. So the value for the large is, go to the themes, and we have the shape. So the value for the large is 0 actually, the small is 4. So I'm going to increase it to maybe 4, not 4, maybe 12. And let's try to run this again. You see, this is how you can able to call the themes from your Jetpack Compose application. So basically, we have covered the navigation part and how to navigate to one screen to another screen and all those stuffs. And you can add a number of arguments to this composable screens. Like for example, we are just passing the ID, right? So what you need to do is you can just add additional parameters like name, and you can even add additional parameters, something called age and whatever it may be. And inside of this arguments, what you have to do is you need to pass a list of arguments here. So that is, so nav arguments. So and you need to pass additional nav argument, which is going to be name. And so this is type is going to be nav type dot string. So we have some formatting issues. So we have this argument here. Let's remove this code. Now argument, this is going to be our name, and you need to pass the arguments. Where is that? Okay, this brackets is actually, let's get this out. And we have this arguments, and so now here, I think here, no, not here. Type, so nav type is going to be string type. So, and you can just get the val here, val name is equal to it dot arguments and get string, and the key is going to be name. So if it is null, we are going to throw illegal state exception. And inside of this, I'm going to type name should not be done. So also you need to pass the name here, and you need to add this parameter to your dog detail screen. So basically you can able to get the dog name, and you can display the data here. So this is the overall view of Jetpack Compose, and I'm going to stop the tutorial. So let's get back to Chrome. So do you guys have any questions? Okay, so in meantime, I will share some of the resources where you can able to So I will show you the demo. So now coming back to the references, so this is the official doc where you can able to get started on Jetpack Compose documentation. And in this tutorial we have used a accompanist navigation library, so which helps us to navigate between Compose seamlessly, as also it is very simple to easy to use this library. And the benefits of using this library is you will be able to achieve some sort of all sort of animations, and that is really cool. And if you need to get started, if you need to check some official samples for Jetpack Compose, then you can just click on this link and you can go ahead and see all the Compose samples. And the other GitHub repository is these tools are like my own project, which is purely made with Jetpack Compose, and you can just export the code and it is well optimized. And yeah, so these are all the things. And thank you guys. Thank you.